I was 35 years old when I moved to Nashville to chase this dream. And now I'm 45 years old and my kids are older. So there's songs about being a dad. There's songs about making love. There's songs about having a good time. There's songs of like Clown in a Barrel about being in love with something that hurts you. And that's comes from Crittenden County for sure. And that song kind of has that rodeo feel because we're talking about a rodeo clown being chased and beaten up by a bull. But I relate to that song heavily because of my relationship with music and certainly the life that I live now. I'm not complaining because I'm doing it. And that has always been my dream. You know, my dream when I moved here was to make a reasonable living, making music every day. But it's difficult. It's harder than it used to be. And there's lots of days where I feel like quitting or giving up or finding something easier to do, finding an easier way to make a living. But I always end up coming back to this and always end up showing up again, painting on that smile and taking my licks, you know, because the bull doesn't always win. He just wins most of the time.
Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms. And of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. If you are all interested in the business of music and the impact of AI on music and songwriting, be sure to check out curiousgoldfish.com. I just did a survey of nearly 600 respondents on these topics, and I've created a full report analyzing the details, including quotes, anecdotes, and commentary from musicians, songwriters, and industry professionals. Be sure to check that out. And today's episode with Barrett Baber is exactly what Curious Goldfish was built for. It's a conversation about business, a little bit about the AI, and a lot about songwriting and the story behind the music. And Barrett is actually featured quite a bit in that report, so please check that out. Barrett is a Nashville songwriter who's written a platinum single and has a top 40 country hit on the Billboard charts right now. And he's been through the kind of personal stuff that changes how a person can show up. And unlike most people though, Barrett has survived a commercial plane crash. He talks about that too. He just released a 10-song album called Crittenden County, named after the Arkansas River Delta area where he grew up. In this conversation, we get into the grind of the business, what he calls the holy thing that happens when good musicians get in a room together, his hard line on keeping AI out of writing lyrics and melodies. We also talk about the relationship with music itself and why he keeps showing up to the page even when it hurts, and how his definition of toughing it out has changed through the years. He's candid, he's talented, and he doesn't pretend to be anything he isn't. So from Marion, Arkansas, here's Barrett Baber. Let's dive in.
Hey, Barrett, man, I appreciate your time. Nice to meet you.
Dude, nice to meet you too, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So tell me something good about the weekend. We're mid-March, right before your double release with the two singles come out. But like, tell me something good about your weekend or your month. Or
man. You had to ask, brother. I spent the entire weekend attending the SEC basketball tournament with my son here in Nashville, Tennessee. I went to 3 straight Arkansas Razorback games, and we are undefeated, man. I've seen them play 3 times this year, and we have won all 3. And one of those games was the SEC championship on yesterday. So got to stay in the stands. And my voice sounds a little tired. It's because I was in the stands at Bridgestone Arena screaming my head off for multiple hours this weekend.
Well, congrats.
Thanks, man.
My only ask as we continue is, can we just limit the pig sueys throughout the conversation?
I won't do that to you, man. I won't do that to you. If it bothers you, I won't do that to you. But I was very happy. I called the Hogs a lot yesterday. I'll tell you that right now.
All right. Well, good. I'm a Mizzou guy. I grew up in Missouri.
Okay.
So Missouri, Arkansas. You know, I remember I was in college when Arkansas literally beat Missouri by 54 points.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that was a heck of a team we had that year, man.
It was like mid-90s or whatever. That was like the 40 minutes of hell and stuff. So, but anyway, I've got a lot of friends that went to Arkansas.
Cool.
Okay, cool. That's good. So congrats.
We got that out of the way, dude.
Got that
where our alliances lie, dude. We got that out of the way.
We're good. Well, so speaking of Arkansas, you've got an album coming out this year called Crittenden County, which is based on I think the place where you spent a lot of time and grew up. I guess
Yeah.
I've been to Arkansas. I've spent a lot of time in Arkansas, especially northern Arkansas and southern Missouri. It's like so underrated, and the beauty and everything. I guess tell me a little bit about Crittenden County for those of us.
Yeah, man. Crittenden County is a little bit different than probably where you've been in Arkansas. If you've been to northern Arkansas, you're right. It is a beautiful place and wonderful up there. In fact, I moved to Nashville from Fayetteville, Arkansas, so that's where we came from. But I grew up in eastern Arkansas in the River Delta, right there, literally right across the river from Memphis, Tennessee. My hometown is a place called Marion, Arkansas. West Memphis is kind of the big county seat, whatever there, and Marion and West Memphis are right together. So I tell people I'm from West Memphis, Marion. They're kind of the same thing. But yeah, right there in the River Delta, my childhood home was about 9 miles from Beale Street, just on the Arkansas side of the river. I kind of grew up a preacher's kid. My dad was the preacher at Marion First Baptist Church while we were there in Marion, and I went to Marion High School, and really that's kind of where I fell in love with music. I'd always been a church boy just because my dad was a minister and a missionary, and I spent a ton of time in church growing up. But when I got to Eastern Arkansas, that's really where I feel like the blending of genre took place for me in terms of what I love. Like I grew up as a really young kid, just church music. That's all I knew. But when I got into the public schools there in Eastern Arkansas and Crittenden County, and then started going to Memphis a lot as a teenager, and going over there to Memphis it's a couple times when I shouldn't have been over there, but experiencing that culture and that music and just that Delta soul, that feeling really that is Eastern Arkansas, the flatlands of Arkansas, but certainly all the culture that's there musically and historically. When it came time to name this record and I got into the studio and tracked these 10 songs, it really came abundantly clear to me that like this was a very true to me project in terms of the way it sounded sonically and how I produced it and the songs that I chose too, but more importantly just the sound of it. It really is kind of an homage to all of the things that influenced me as a kid growing up, falling in love with music, not knowing that I would be making music for my living at that time. And so there's elements of grunge and 90s rock and but certainly a ton of Memphis soul and grooves and a lot of John Mayer influences in there from a guitar standpoint and how the guitar sound and how we layered the tracks and produced those out. So, what I had to name it something. And I just thought, man, this is like the sound of this record. It sounds like my teenage years to me in terms of all of the things that I love in one place. And some, some sounds that probably most people aren't used to hearing together. There's some country songs on this record, just like there's some soul songs on this record. And I think that's cool. That's the cool part about Crittenden County for me, is that it's a mix of all those things, like the best part of all those things.
I've read where you've said that there's a little bit of Crittenden County in every track.
That's facts, man. If we sat and listened to it together, I could be like, well, this reminds me of a, old BB King song, or this reminds me of a John Mayer song off the second record that he put out, or this reminds me of an Eve 6 record that I used to listen to when I just turned 16 and was, driving back and forth to Memphis, and some of the things, the Pete Yorn, and some of the things that I really fell in love with, those artists that really have influenced my writing and me as an artist, all this time that I've been doing music has really shined through on this record. And so that's why I love it so much. I really feel like people that know me especially are going to listen to this project and go, of course, this is a Barrett Baber project.
That's so cool. I'm not going to pretend to be a historian around music, but didn't Johnny Cash's family have didn't they live like on a poor farm in like Dias?
Arkansas? Yeah, Dias, Arkansas. That's not too far from Crittenden County. That's probably, 30 miles away, like south, but still on the eastern side of the state. And so did like Levon Hill was from that area in and around those, the eastern side of Arkansas, and Ashton McBride. I mean, just even people today, it's like, you can hear it in her, you can hear it in me. It's just like, it's hard not to be a little bit of everything when you're from East Arkansas.
Yeah. small plug for Mizzou alum Cheryl Crow's from Kennett, Missouri, which is right in the
That's
Blue Belt.
right.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
it's like,
about an hour north of where I grew up.
Yeah.
she experienced that too in the Missouri Delta there next to the Mississippi River.
yeah. So how close were you to the Mississippi if you were in West Memphis? Is that
I mean, right there. It's like I said, I mean, you could probably, if I got in my old 88 Bronco 2 and started driving towards Memphis from my house, I would be there in less than 5 minutes. I could get to where I could see the Mississippi River in, 5-10 minutes. So
okay?
right there. I mean, right across the river from Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay. Not to get too like mystical or spiritual, but I've talked to a few people from Memphis. I've talked to a few people that were from Muscle Shoals. So you got the Tennessee River there. And the common theme, to be honest, is they can't really explain it, but the energy of the river, they attribute to a lot of inspiration and sort of this crazy creative, I don't know, thing that manifests itself. I guess, again, not to get too crazy, but
That's cool. I mean, that's something worth looking into.
Is that something that's like down there and it's like you kind of have to be there?
I guess so, man.
No?
I mean, I think it'd be interesting to look into that. How many songwriters and kind of people that had got a little funk to them, got a little soul to them. How many of those people grew up next to a big river that was moving? And I don't know. It's probably got a lot to do with that. And I'm totally about that mystical thing because it's true. Even like kind of the title track of the entire record is a song called "West of Memphis," and the first line of that song is "Graceland's ghost floats across the river at night." And I was 12 years old when I felt it for the first time. And so I don't know what it is. It's weird. There's a lot of ghosts around there, a lot of vibes, a lot of Civil War stuff happened. One of the greatest maritime disaster in the history of the United States happened on the Mississippi River in Marion, Arkansas, right on the river, right outside of the town that I grew up in. And a Civil War ship exploded and a lot of people lost their lives. So there's just a lot of history there and a lot of music there, but also the civil rights movement, that took place in Memphis and certainly I'm sure was occurring across the river in Arkansas simultaneously there in West Memphis and Marion. It really is a deep pool of inspiration. I really do think you can kind of feel that there when you're there. I was passing through that area this past week on my way to a gig in South Arkansas by myself. And I pulled off on the side of the road and kind of just to put my feet on Crittenden County again for the first time in a long time. And I got out and it looked the same. And a train horn's blowing off in the distance. And it's just like it was in high school. And I was like, man, some things don't change. Like this vibe is still here and it's still lingering here. And it's, it was inspiring for me to do that, to get to pass through my hometown again. And it is kind of just a place I pass through. Now my parents don't live there anymore and none of my brothers do. And most of my friends have moved on to other places, but I got a lot of love for Crittenden County and West Memphis. It really made me who I am and shaped me as a musician and certainly as a songwriter. I mean, my biggest success as a songwriter was a platinum radio single that I wrote for Cody Johnson. And I mean, you listen to that song and listen to him sing it, or even me sing it, you'll right away hear that Memphis soul. And that's what got it cut. That's the reason he was interested in it, is because it had that kind of Motown, Memphis-y, groovy thing, that just Beale Street thing.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. So I want to ask about the album. So you mentioned the variety of musical influences in terms of sound that sort of is like melting pot of the album. I guess in terms of themes and like lyrically, what can listeners expect to hear in the 10 songs that are on the album? Is it love? And the one that I've heard and I love is "The Clown in a Barrel," which I want to ask.
Yeah,
about.
man.
But, so that's a great song, and it's personal for me when I saw the lyrics and heard it. But yeah, like, what's the theme of the album? Like, if you had to describe it in terms of the theme.
I think it's song driven, songwriter driven, and hook driven. And that just comes from spending the past 10 years working my way to becoming a professional songwriter here in Nashville. And it's a little bit more grown up, I think, than some of the previous things that I've released. And this is my first time to release a full-length record in over a decade. And so I released a few singles here and there, but like this is the first group of songs together that sort of work together. And it's a little bit more grown up because I'm a little bit more grown up. I mean, I was 35 years old when I moved to Nashville to chase this dream. And now I'm 45 years old and my kids are older. And And so there's songs about being a dad. There's songs about making love. There's songs about having a good time. There's songs like Clown in a Barrel about being in love with something that hurts you. And that's comes from Crittenden County for sure, from some of my experiences there. But more than anything, it's the sound that that crunchy guitar, that thing. It's not a big rodeo town or anything like that, and that song kind of has that rodeo feel because we're talking about a rodeo clown being chased and beaten up by a bull. But for me, specifically that song, I relate to that song heavily because of my relationship with music and certainly the life that I live now. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with this, but like, it's really, really hard to make a living as a songwriter now more than ever. And I'm not complaining because I'm doing it. And that has always been my dream. My dream when I moved here was to make a reasonable living, making music every day. And so, but it's difficult. It's harder than it used to be. And that's got a lot to do with streaming and, the fact that no one buys CDs anymore or any of those things. And that's okay. It is what it is, but it's hard. And there's lots of days where I feel like quitting or giving up or finding something easier to do, finding an easier way to make a living. But I always end up coming back to this and always end up showing up again, showing back up, painting on that smile and taking my licks, because the bull doesn't always win. He just wins most of the time.
All right. So I have to ask. So I actually just interviewed Tyler Halverson a few weeks ago.
I love it, dude. Yeah. He cut the song.
I was like,
actually wrote it with.
Yeah. So Clown in a Barrel. So you've got co-writing credit. Like it's you and Tyler. Is there anyone else on that one?
Yeah. Me, Tyler, Terry Joe Vox and Scott Sean White. And I'm glad you know Tyler because I'm such a fan of his work and what he does and kicking so much ass down there in Texas, man. It's like unbelievable to have watched it happen. But he came in like this room next to this room I'm sitting in. We wrote the song in there. He came in that day with that hook, I'm a clown in a barrel and baby, you're the bull. And I'm pretty sure like maybe he had just gone through a breakup or there was some type of thing. His connection to the song was based on real life, in terms of like keeps picking up the phone when someone calls. It's one of those things where it's like everybody's had this relationship, most of us, where we know somebody's bad for us, but we just can't say no. We got to pick up the phone. We keep coming back. It's almost like we like the hoof and the horn. And he came in, we wrote the song and it was so cool. And when I was picking out songs for this record, everything was kind of on the table, even songs that other artists had recorded, that I wrote with them or for them. And so I just kept coming back to this work tape, man, that we made that particular day with Tyler singing and us doing harmonies. And it was just an iPhone recording. And Tyler's version of it was a little bit more true to that in terms of kind of a group sing thing, a little bit more of a our song kind of thing, which is cool. It totally worked that way. But I always felt like deep down, if I was ever going to cut a record, I would like to cut this song and make it rock and make it a little bit more Dri-Fi Truckers and put a little bit more of that crunch on it. And I just knew it had potential to be a monster and not just a sing-along song. And so I was really stoked. I just whittled all of my songs down to this group of songs. And when it came time to record the record, I was like, man, I got to try this. Like, I got to try if it doesn't work, that's fine, but I got to try to record this. And it turned out so cool. And Tyler likes it too. So it's awesome. It's good for him, to have a credit on me and I got a credit on him. And I'm a big fan of that guy, man. He's writing some cool songs.
Yeah, he's cool. I mean, it's funny that where people come from, it's just like, you never know. It's like South Dakota, really?
Yeah.
He grew up as like a skater kid too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So if I heard you correctly earlier, so the bull in your world is the music industry.
Kind of, man, the music business or just songwriting in general, I love it so much. I love making art in the form of music and original songs. And so, like I said, it's tough. It's difficult sometimes, but also I just know it's who I am and there's no getting away from it. Right. And so it's kind of the way I identified with that song, and really one of those songs that we wrote the song. And then a few weeks later, as I was listening to the work tape, I was like, oh, this is about my relationship with music. Like for me, that's what this song is about. And I feel like anytime you can write a song that allows people to implant their own, what does it mean for you? And that includes me. And I wrote the song, but anytime you can allow that, that's a good song. That's got potential to be great because anyone, no matter what it is. Is it a relationship? Is it a relationship with drugs or alcohol? Is it a relationship with church? Is it a relationship with a job? Is it a relationship with what you do and who you are, where you're from? You know, something that you always keep coming back to. If you keep coming back to it, even though it hurts you, but you can't help but love it, that's what the song is about.
That's awesome. All right. So the quote of the episode with Tyler is, he's like, out of the blue, he's like, I'm a sucker for a song, you know? So,
Oh, bad dude.
so
Yeah.
The Clown in a Barrel is definitely a song worth to be a sucker for, because it's great.
Yeah.
I'd like to read a couple lyrics, because
Okay.
like you said, which is like, that's why we love music, right? It's like you can apply it to different circumstances or different life experiences or whatever, but this is great. So this is the first verse, or part of the first verse. I'm a clown in a barrel, baby. You're the bull. Push me around that arena floor. And then it continues. And then it gets to the first part of the chorus. And Lord, it takes a crazy fool to keep holding on the way I do. And it's hard to tell who's breaking who. And you know, again, not to get into it, but I was married for 25 years, lots of ups and downs, lots of great memories. We have a great family, but like, you know, now that's behind me. I'm in my early 50s, but I'm looking at that going like, and it's not really, I don't want to kind of go where I went, but it's like, why do you, if we're talking about relationships, it's like, why do you guys put up with it? You know, or put up like whatever is bugging them. And I guess, you know, women can say the same thing. Like if it's, you know, if it's abusive or whatever, it's crazy how you actually live with and put up with, and then seek again the bull with the horns and with the rolling and the crazy. It's just crazy, right?
And there's a lot of good things about the bull too, man. If you ride it long enough, I mean, you can win, you know, if you, and they're not all, I guess, I'm assuming not all of them are mean, but, and I'm not trying to call women bulls. No doubt. Hey, don't get it. Don't pull that clip, brother. Don't put that out there.
There's the lead hook right there.
Yeah, just anything, man, that you can't walk away from. I mean, it's, or that you struggle to walk away from. And you just, even though you know it's going to hurt, you keep showing back up, you know, and that's really what my life is showing up every day. It's like, I have to, it's like the songs don't get written if you don't show up. And so that's kind of been my mantra this entire journey of mine, you know, towards, trying to make a reasonable living, making music every day is that like, no matter how many times I get told no, or how many times we swing and miss on a song or a good idea or a bad idea, and how much time it feels like I waste in rooms when we don't write something great, which is often, you know, I still show up the next day, and it's got a lot to do with the fact that I just am in love with the process of making music, even when it hurts me, and even when it's tough, and even when it breaks my heart, and it has. You know, I've had a lot of ups and downs myself here in Nashville over the last 10 years, certainly professionally, and you know, I'm still here, and that's so it hopeful at the same time. Matter of fact, dude, I played that song once at a show in Georgia last year, and at a little songwriter show. Lady came up to me and said afterwards, she goes, you know, I know you said that song is about kind of your relationship with music, but that song really works well for somebody who's been fighting cancer like I have. And so it just made sense right then. I was like, it does, doesn't it? Because it's like, what choice do you have other than to show up and fight anyway, you know? And sometimes it feels like you're getting pushed around and stomped on and beat up, but you're in that barrel, you're still fighting the fight, and you show up every day. Like I said, like the song says, paint that smile back on and go do one more show.
All right. Well said. And as Tyler said, like, I'm a sucker for a song. Like, I'm a sucker for that song. That's a good one. So
thanks, dude. You know, the cool part about doing this independently, from a label is that, we get to do things different, kind of like release 2 songs at once. You know, it's really hard. I mean, I'm learning, you know, I did a lot of artist stuff. Right when I first got to town, I kind of moved to town to really do the artist thing. I realized really quickly, like, the amount of time that's going to require me to be away from my kids and away from home. I just didn't feel comfortable with that trade-off. And so that's when I dove in hard to like, I just need to be a published songwriter first. And then I could do some artist things that I want to do and do them by myself and not try to chase what everybody else is chasing, which is a record deal. And so I jumped in to writing full time. And so that's kind of the reason I'm here now is I don't have a record deal or I'm doing this independently. And it's the fun part about it is because I get to make those decisions in terms of how do we differentiate this project from everything else. I mean, my Instagram feed is full of people that are really good dropping singles every single week, And so I'm like, well, I mean, I got the idea from my wife, Sarah. I said, got to start picking songs. Like what singles? I probably should do a few singles, and I understand why people drop singles. I'm not even hating on it. It's like, I've dropped them myself. When you have a project and you got 10 songs, if you drop 3 or 4 singles off of it first, well, that gives you, 3-4 months of consistent promotional content that you have to put on the internet. And these days that's where the market is. Mm-hmm. And so, but I just didn't want to do it the way everybody else did it. And also because the result is kind of like lower on the list than it ever has been before in terms of the numbers, how many streams does it get? How much money does it make? I have a job. I'm a songwriter. I have that. I have a job. So I don't need this to blow up. I think it's got a chance to because it's cool and probably because I don't care it might, and so I'm like, but really my mindset, this entire project has been about like just doing something that's like authentically me, that sounds like me, that people that are fans of mine already know and love about me as being an authentic person and an authentic artist and doing my sound, signature sound of Barrett Baber. And so I just wanted to make sure that I captured that on microphones and with the songs that I picked, but certainly with how it sounded. And so that's cool, man. That's the reason why I was asking Sarah, like, what singles should we release? She was like, singles? She's like, do doubles. What's wrong with doubles? And I was like, well, I'd be damned. I ain't ever thought of that, dude. Like, well, you're right. I was like, you're right. What's better than a single cheeseburger, man? A double cheeseburger, And so I thought it was cool. And like I said, too, man, it's just like, it gave me the opportunity to curate these songs that come out together. When I grew up, in the 90s and early 2000s, really falling in love with music there in Crittenden County, that's how I consumed music. Mm-hmm. Was, I went to Tower Records in Memphis and I bought the Pearl Jam record, and I listened to it from top to bottom, one song after the other. I bought the Smashing Pumpkins record. I bought the Boyz II Men records. I bought rap records. All of these things I listened to top to bottom in my car or in my room on a CD player. And I felt like the artist was always taking me on a ride that they had thought about, well, what are we going to put first on the record? What are we going to put? What do we need to follow that song with? What comes after that one then? Should we go tempo? Should we go ballad? Is it time for a groove? Is it time for this and that? And I just kind of feel like that artist lost a little bit in this particular market that we're functioning in. And while I want it to be commercially successful, I just like, because I'm not all that worried about that, I'm like, well, how about I just actually like do right by the art of it, put these songs in the order that I want, and then release these doubles together in ways where they flow together, where you're listening to the first one, almost as if you bought a single. Those singles that we bought in the 90s, they had 2 songs on there. One was the single, and then there was the B-side or the other song on there, and they would flow into each other. And so they always felt like they worked together. And that's, I spent a lot of time, probably more time than I should, thinking about that, because I'm probably there's people that I know it matters to, but like, it just mattered to me. I'm like, well, regardless, man, like if you turn this on a 45-minute to an hour drive somewhere and press play on the first song and listen all the way down, you're going to be like, oh, cool. Like that works. Like the songs flow into each other. That's the art of it, man. That's another piece of the art that has kind of gone away in the single world that we're living in. So that's why we decided to do it this way. I'm really proud of that too. I think it's cool. And like, I think people will get into it too, 2 songs at a time. And then volume 3 will have all 10 songs. So these 4 songs will be on volume 3, but the other 6 songs, and they'll be sequenced out. So sweet. I'm excited about the doubles for sure. Really stoked about the entire record coming out so people can enjoy it that way.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So so much I want to ask you about. So you're a songwriter at heart, which is awesome. I guess I want to get your perspective on something. Okay. I had the honor of talking to a number of songwriters but two Hall of Fame songwriters. So Roger
Okay.
Murrah,
Great.
and then Marcus Hummon.
Love
Marcus wrote,
Marcus, man.
yeah, Bless the Broken Road, and
Man, I've written some cool songs with Marcus, man.
have
I've
you?
written
Yeah,
some
he's.
cool. Oh yeah.
I mean, so Roger's a genius in his own right. I mean, he was named the BMI Songwriter of the Decade for the 1980s. I mean, come on,
I
right?
mean, that's a good time to be
like,
named
you
that.
talk to Marcus, he's talking about operas and songs and Emily Dickinson. He is crazy.
Yeah.
But so Roger in particularly, I think Marcus added to this, you know, he was talking about, you know, there's a lot of really good songs in Nashville, but like we're looking for the exceptional one. And he talks about this notion of like finding magic. So when you're in a writing room, you know, he's like, you can tell. He's like, when something's happening, like you can like tell it. I guess, do you have your own experience personally, whether it was part of the 10 songs on Crittenden County or in, you know, in another project where you felt that magic? And I guess, could you describe that for those
Yeah.
that will never be in a writer's room, you know?
Dude, I mean, multiple songs on this project, you know, check that box for me. I mean, the second song on volume 1 is called Hurt Talking. And I kind of had that experience with that. I mean, I had that idea written on my song title list that I keep on my phone. I just always keep my ears open for something that sounds like a song. And I just put it on my list. And then I get into a room or get into a session and it'll write the song. And in that particular case, if we wrote that song on Zoom in 2020, and I pitched the idea, what about Hurt Talking? And I hadn't even thought about the double layer of that song. And that's really, in Nashville, we're kind of shooting for that sometimes. It's like, how do you say something twice, and the second time you say it, it means something different or something more? And so that's kind of how that song worked. I pitched that idea. I was writing it with my friends Dustin Christensen and Lee Starr, and we were, you know, so I was singing gibberish and picking on my guitar like I do when I write. And then, and we kind of started working on the chorus and got to the end of the chord. A lot of times we'll write a song backwards. And so one of the first things we'll do is try to write the like second to last line in the chorus before the hook. You know, what's the setup line? And then we'll go back and write the chorus down, and then we'll write the first verse, right? Because then the chorus will often tell us what the first verse needs to say. And so it's not always like that. Sometimes you start at the top and just write it down. But this particular day was one of those days. And I remember specifically like Lee Starr saying, well, what if we double clutched the hook and made it mean more the second time? And I said, well, say more. And he was like, yeah, like that voice in my head starts telling me it won't hurt talking, like talking to you on phone, but that's just the hurt talking. And so it's like, whoa, I was like, yes. Exactly, dude. That's it. And so, you know, that's one reason I love co-writing so much is just because everybody's brain works a little different. And certainly when you put in thousands of reps and had literally thousands of songwriting sessions over the course of a decade, it's like you just get a little bit better at seeing the path to that hook before any of the rest of the parts of the song are written. And so I knew at that point, okay, well, the first talking means talking, actually talking on the phone. So let's get her to call him. You know, she calls him late, you know, and one of those songs where it's like, you know, most times I'm good, but when you call me late, you know, it gets the wheels turning, you know, it gets the whiskey kicking in, and my heart gets to, and my heart starts thinking harder than my head does. And then all of a sudden, you know, well, then there's a devil on my shoulder saying it's all right to pick it on up because it won't hurt talking, but that's just the hurt talking. And so when that came about, there was this moment in my house on Zoom, and I wrote a lot of good songs on Zoom, but I love this one. It's one of my favorite ones on Zoom. And then simultaneously, not simultaneously, but same record, different song. The song West of Memphis happened that way. Like, we were here at Seagale. It was my double that day. Sometimes I'll do 2 songs in one day. I don't do it as much as I used to. When you first get to town, you kind of need to do that like more often because honestly, like you're just not a good songwriter yet. And the way you get good is writing a lot. And so this particular day, a year or two ago, I had 2 that day. I had 2 sessions. So I'd already written a song. I don't even know what that one was. I remember. I could probably look it up, but I was, you know, finished that one, had about 30 minutes before my next session started here at Seagale. and my phone rang, and it was one of my co-writers that I was supposed to write with, Joe Haydell. And he said, man, I got nothing, dude. I'm out of gas. I just finished writing a song, and we didn't get anything. And I'm just telling you, man, I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. And I said, dude, okay. Like, I kind of feel the same way, but just come on by here. Like, it's on your way home. Stop in here to the office. Let's sit. Maybe we'll drink a beer, whatever. We'll sit. Let's just talk about the business, hang out for a second, because he's my friend anyway. And he gets there. Well, Brian, so I get off the phone with Joe, my other co-writer. Brian calls me, says the same thing. Dude, I don't know, man. I don't know if I got it in me today. I said, man, just come on. Joe's coming by. You just come by and we'll hang out. Let's see if anything happens. We'll try for 30 minutes. If nothing happens, then we'll just go home and forget this ever happened. And so they both get here and we get to hanging out. We started kicking the tires on a couple ideas, shooting for one of the Lukes or Blake's or Jake's or whoever, we were shooting for country radio stuff. And we just weren't feeling it. It really wasn't happening. And kind of as a last ditch effort, I pitched out this idea and I said, boys, I got a title, but none of us are going to make any money on this because the only person that could record this is me. And I'm not cutting a record. I wasn't cutting a record at the time. I don't have a record deal. I'm not going to radio. So they said, well, what is it? And I said, west of Memphis. Like I grew up in a town kind of called West Memphis, but west of, I put the of in there, west of Memphis. And so they said, okay, cool. Like say more. That's when I just jumped into that first line, just Graceland's ghost floats across the river at night. And I was 12 years old when I heard it for the first time. And so we had a long discussion before we really finished out that song about what this needs to be about, for me, because they were both like, I'm in, let's do it. And it was really about my innocence, like a longing as an adult, to be as naive and hungry and inspired as I was back then. It's like, even since moving to Nashville, it's really easy to become uninspired, especially when you write every day, which I do. And so it's hard to find that inspiration sometimes. And there are moments where I miss who I was before, in terms of when this was just a dream, when it was a far off, outlandishly crazy idea that I used to, I had myself convinced for 10 years that it was the craziest thing in the world to even think about doing. And there's beauty in that. There was a beautiful thing in that innocence of that. And coming over here and learning more about the business and getting into it and doing it every day, it's easy to become a little bit callous to that inspiration of how beautiful a life this is that I'm living. And so that's the song. That's what it's about. It's about missing my innocence, missing my hometown, but not as much my hometown as me, who I was then, that kid that was just in love with that feeling that a great song gave you. And I still get that feeling, man. I get it when I listen to this project, and when I made this project, I felt that.
That's awesome.
And when I cut that particular song, I really felt that. That's probably the biggest, production wise, the largest sort of song. It kind of goes to almost a Meatloaf place, dude. Like it's very big, and it's, speaking of rock opera, it kind of has that feel to it. We put strings on it and all kinds of stuff. I mean, like it was really fun to cut that song, but that one really, that gave me that feeling. When we hit that first hook on that one, it was an inspired moment. I mean, there might have been a tear or two shed because that song is probably one of the most deeply personal songs on the project. And I get that feeling. I got that feeling today, man. I wrote a song before I jumped on here with you. And, there is always a moment in a room when someone says just the right thing that gets everybody's brains to click and understand, oh my God, I can see the path. I can see this thing from 30,000 feet. I know how to get us to the goal line, to the hook, and set it up the right way. And, man, it's fun, man. It's so cool when it happens. It really is. It really is spiritual. It's a spiritual thing. If you don't think it's spiritual, I don't know what's wrong with you. Cause it's like to be in a room and to have something go from this nugget of an idea on your iPhone to this gibberish, sort of just singing gibberish stuff, to all of a sudden coming into focus and then really crafted into this piece of art. It's a spiritual thing. it's got to be holy. I mean, it's a holy moment, and I've always felt that way about it. And you don't get those days every day. That's facts. I mean, just not going to. You know, not everybody hits a home run when they get up to bat. You know, in fact, you only have to hit like one home run every now and then. You can get in the Hall of Fame. You know, so it's kind of, and that's kind of what it is for songwriting. Honestly, I mean, like not everybody writes a number one smash every day. But man, when you get in the room and you really put one together that's that you believe in, that's cool, that tickles your fancy, man. There's nothing like that, dude. It's a drug that gives you a high for sure.
All right, so I have to ask you: can anyone write a really good song? I know anyone can probably write a song, but can just anyone write a good song? Or do you have to like go through the at bats and the all the bad ones to get to the good ones? And
man, I gotta tell you, man,
and learn from everybody else, right? Like
that's pretty much in my experience.
Yeah,
you get good at it by doing it and doing it a lot and doing it for a long time.
Yeah. Okay.
There's people. Listen, I'm one of those people. I got to town. I wrote Nothing on You for Cody Johnson in year 2.5 in town. You know, so I'd been in town. I'd been writing songs for a long time. 5, 6, 7 songs a year, you know, before I moved to town. When I got to town, I started writing every day, twice a day, doing that kind of thing. And so in year 2, I wrote a song that, you know, was a platinum certified single. And so there's some luck involved there. Obviously now I wrote that song with a guy that's been in town 25 years, you know, that probably helped.
Yeah.
But certainly I really think, dude, like the way to get good at writing songs is writing songs.
Just writing songs.
And you got to, man, you got to write some of the bad ones. And unfortunately, most of us will write bad ones and think they're awesome. And our moms will tell us they're awesome. And we'll record those songs and give them to all of our fraternity brothers. And so they can make fun of us years from now, you know, like mine do me about my first songs. But the trick to it, man, is not a trick at all. It's just put in the work, man, put in the effort, and then really surrounding yourself with people that are more talented than you. As often as possible. I mean, and that's kind of how I did it when I got to town and still do. I mean, I want to put myself in the atmosphere of really smart, talented songwriters. And if I show up with a cool idea, they're going to help me bring it home and they'll do the same. And so I learn a ton from my co-writers. I almost never write a song by myself. And it's not because I can't, it's because I love the collaborative process of taking an idea and giving it to someone else and hearing their perspective on that idea. How do they hear it the first time? Like I've got ideas on how we should write a song every time I show up.
Yeah.
But almost always I'll pitch it to one of my friends that's in the room that we're writing a song with, or the artist. And they'll say, well, what if we did it like this? And they'll see it from a different angle that I hadn't even thought about yet. And it may be way better than what I even anticipated. Most often than not, it is. And that's one reason why co-writing is really important. If you want to be a great songwriter, writing for country radio or just writing hooky songs, co-writing is the move and collaboration is the move. And so I certainly could write songs by myself, but I enjoy the process of bouncing ideas off each other and that collaborative thing. I've often said, if we put up cameras in this room today and videoed what just happened in this room that I'm sitting in with my co-writers, Braden Jameson and Taylor Goyette, who I wrote with today, and we cut that down into a TV show, people would be flabbergasted. They would just be like, wow, how did it happen? And it's like, well, I don't know. That's the holy part. That's kind of the same thing, dude, with recording songs. I mean, here in Nashville, I wish everybody had the opportunity to come into a demo session or come into a recording session, because the way that happens is so cool. It's just like, I play them this acoustic vocal of me on my iPhone. I play these master musicians. We stand in a circle and I hold my phone and play it. And then we break the huddle and they go to their respective positions in a studio and somebody goes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Off they run. Next thing you know, it goes from that thing on my phone to this thing with percussion and beautiful guitars and all of those things. Man, that's a really spiritual thing. Like it's almost magic. It feels like magic every time.
That's so cool. Well, so you mentioned the Cody Johnson song, and you've got a bunch of others, but you got one now that's doing pretty well. With Kelsey Hart. It's called Fireworks, right?
Yeah. It's in the top 40 now on Country Billboard. I'm really excited about that song. It's Kelsey's a great artist, man. A great singer, cool, family guy. You know, just like he does it all right, and he's really, really talented. Very handsome fella too, which never hurts. Never hurt. For the guy to be extremely handsome. and young and awesome, you know, and he's really good at it, dude. And so it's really hard these days to get an artist to record a song that they didn't write. And this is one of those instances where, you know, and such a dude, very Nashville story with how this song found its way to him. I mean, we wrote that song late last year or early last year. My friend Taylor Goyette and Jordan James, and Taylor and I had that idea, fireworks, because it can mean two things, right? It can be two words or one word, fireworks, boom, or fireworks. How does it work? And so we had that idea and decided to write it with Jordan, and Jordan was playing a BMI event down on Music Row the next day, and kind of just got called in, like his buddy was sick, and so he was filling in. He wasn't even supposed to be there, and he just thought, man, I'm gonna play a new song. Like I'm just play this new one we wrote yesterday. He kind of, you know, we all knew it was cool, and so he plays fireworks right there. You know, first time that it had ever been played out of the room. And after his set, somebody from Curb Records was in the room and walked up to him and said, "What's the deal with that song? Like, do you have a work tape?" And he said, "Yeah." And so he sent it to her. And within a week, it was on hold with Kelsey. And then another month after that, they were in the studio recording it. And another month after that, it was on its way to radio. So
That's
it's,
so cool.
there's a big luck factor involved here, dude. It's, which can drive you crazy if you're not careful. But man,
yeah, but I think your whole mantra is like, you know, you show up. Like I think if you show up enough times, the luck will come, right?
Yeah, your luck starts getting better the more you show up, and the better you get at it. It's funny how that works. You know, the better you become as a songwriter, all of a sudden you find yourself getting more cuts more often.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm at, man. I'm on year 9 here in Nashville, and so they call this a 10-year town. And when I first got to town, I thought, not for me, dude. Like I'm gonna do it in 4. You know, like and a lot of that pressure I put on myself had to do with being a family man and needing to provide and those things. But what I understand now is like the reason it takes 10 years for a lot of us to really pop off as songwriters is because it takes that long to get really, really, really good at it, where you're more often than not, you're writing a good song almost every day. And some days you're writing great songs. And then also because it takes that long for your friends to get famous, you know, or people that you know, to blow up. I mean, when I got the Nothing on You cut, I don't know that I'm pretty sure Cody didn't even have a record deal. So, you know, luck plays a factor, but you start making your own luck the longer you do it. It seems like to me. I hope so, at least, because I've been doing this a long time.
So I have a question though about the radio charting. You mentioned the song Fireworks. So is it a country music thing that people kind of still care about radio? You know? Yeah,
really kind of the only genre where it matters more than anywhere else in terms of that as songwriters, you know. As songwriters, it's cool to have someone record your song, but if they only release it on streaming, unfortunately, the songwriters that aren't the artists and the person that doesn't own the recording really doesn't make much money on it. And, if any, and so we're all shooting for radio because that's where the real publishing money is. Those royalty rates are set by the government. And so they have to pay us a certain amount when a song is played on the radio. Mm-hmm. And those spots on the radio are so coveted amongst songwriters because that's how I'm going to send my kids to college, right? It won't be because of a song streams 100 million, you know, it'll be because a song is played all summer long on a radio station all over the country. And so that's why those spots are so meaningful to us. And really the country music format is really a place where that still really matters a lot to songwriters. If I can own a percentage of the audio recording and it gets 100 million streams, that's good for me too. And that's starting to happen more often where especially independent artists will give a percentage of ownership to the songwriters. That's what I'm doing with my record, is giving everybody a few percentage points in case something explodes on the internet or on TikTok or one of those formats, so that we can all at least pay our bills, you know. And that's kind of what we're all after to do. But the best way to get that done is get one on the radio and have it take forever to get all the way to the top and then take forever to go back off.
All right. Well, let's hope for that with Fireworks.
Yeah, I got my fingers crossed, man. Big time.
All right. So I just have some like quick hit. I think maybe, well, I'll try quick hit questions with you, but a lot to cover, I guess. So I've actually interviewed a few people that have been on both The Voice and American Idol. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to tell you kind of the feedback, but the 3 or 4 people I've talked to, it's heavily favored, kind of in preference of one over the other, just in terms of like overall experience and whatnot. So it's been 10 years that your run on The Voice was incredible. You finished third. You worked with Blake Shelton on that show. I guess can you just give me a real quick synopsis of, and then I think you're on season 2 of American Idol. Like, is it like night and day in terms of the experience, or are they both pretty much kind of the same thing for those of us that don't go?
Yeah, I had different experiences on both. I mean, I auditioned for American Idol, to be honest with you, just because like this girl asked me if I wanted to go spend the night in a sleeping bag on the sidewalk and audition for a TV show I'd never heard of. I mean, season 2, I still hadn't heard of. And this was in 2003. So like, I mean, the internet, we all had Razor phones, dude. Like and so, yeah, I made it on the show. I kind of didn't understand being 23 years old. I really didn't understand at that time, like how important the story part of those shows are in terms of getting on. And so I wasn't very, and still just was very young and I knew I could sing, but I wasn't all that interesting. You know, I didn't tell them anything interesting about me. I kind of just only wanted to get on the show if it was just to sing. And so I got montaged through that whole situation. Like no one really even knows I was on season 2, and I wasn't. I was kind of I got a golden ticket, but I didn't get actually on the show. And then my voice experience was completely different. And it's because at that point I kind of was a grown up, and I knew, I was like, oh, like they're making a TV show, so I should probably try to be as interesting as possible and tell them everything about myself. And I kind of had lived a lot of life, dude. I was a high school teacher and I had a couple kids, and I'd been gigging, $100 restaurant shows for a decade at that point, and sort of preparing. I didn't know it, but I was really preparing myself for that moment. And it happened just at the right time for me, in terms of being old enough to understand how to make the most out of it, and then turn it into an enterprise so that it could be kind of the springboard for me to really fulfill my dream of making a living, making music. And so I've been doing this ever since. I mean, I got nothing but great things to say. I don't know enough to say bad things about American Idol because I wasn't on there long enough. But when it comes to The Voice, man, I got nothing but like glowing things to say about it, because it was such a great experience for me. It really was the catalyst for me to do this, and something I really needed. I struggle with self-doubt. I still do. But certainly back then I was completely like always trying to convince myself that little nagging dream that I always had in the back of my heart was like, man, that's crazy. That's insane, dude. Like, you got kids, you got responsibilities. You shouldn't, like, it's a huge risk. You have to quit your job and maybe have to move and all of those things. And so I talked myself out of success for a decade, or even talk myself out of trying. And that thing just kind of came about so organically with the casting agent, seeing me on YouTube and knowing a former contestant who mentioned my name to them. And then they called me, and my wife really pushed me, said, hey man, you're always going to wonder what would have happened if you've done that, and you should probably go do it. Yeah. And so I did, and I had to quit my job to do it. And so when I did that, I was like, I have to make this work. Like, this has to work. I got bills to pay and mouths to feed and gifts to clothe. And so I really went all in. And at that point, and for the last 10 years, this is what I've been doing, just making music, writing songs, figuring it out, $1 at a time, one gig at a time, one song at a time.
But I got to ask you, Barrett, what's crazy about your American Idol story? That was 4 years after you surviving this plane crash.
Yeah.
Again, 11 people perished, which is like, you're the first person I've ever talked to that went through something like that. So like, did it ever occur to you to kind of say, okay, that's unique. I can sing and play guitar and put those two together. Cause I'm pretty sure if you had made a bigger deal about that,
it totally would have worked.
It would have gone somewhere, right?
The problem for me back then, I think really, I was still kind of struggling with coming to grips with that. Being on a commercial jet that crashed and killed a bunch of people, and experiencing that trauma as a 19-year-old, when that happened, and this is pre 9/11 when this happened in 1999. So, it was kind of before we all knew about post-traumatic stress and that really traumatic things are hard to deal with. And so I was struggling. with how to come to grips with it and why am I here and my self-worth. And, it's before I met my wife, before I had children, still in that sort of quarter life crisis stage where I was like, what is this all about? Why am I here? Why did I make it and other people didn't make it? And so I was really, really reluctant to even mention that at that time. I really just didn't want people to think like I was using that tragedy to help me. Whereas when I did it on The Voice, and I did The Voice, I knew I was going to say something about it because it's part of my story, but also I recognized that it was an opportunity to help people and an opportunity for people to hear a story about a guy that went through this thing that was completely crazy and survived this trauma in his life and has managed to still make something out of himself and still, keep going and still not allow one thing, really awful thing to ruin the rest of his life. And I thought it was an opportunity for that. And so I talked to The Voice about it and they did a really great job of framing that, not making that all that I was about. It was how they introduced me to the world. And it really did help, in terms of people being like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But then immediately shifting off of that and into who I am, at the time, a high school teacher, a father, and an artist, or somebody that was dreaming of doing music.
So how do you think your definition of sort of quote unquote toughing it out has evolved since the plane crash, the 2 reality music shows, you being, your 9th year in a 10-year town? How does your definition of toughing it out evolve through the years? How does that manifest itself in your everyday life now? Because you've been through a lot,
Yeah,
both personally and professionally.
man. I think certainly we are all kind of the culmination of our trauma and our life experience. And, I've just always been that. Blame it on my raising, where I'm from, Crittenden County played a huge role in that because, Crittenden County, it's a little rough, dude. It's not Franklin, Tennessee. I can tell you that right now. It's a different growing up experience than I had than my kids are having. And you had to be tough, it was dog eat dog for a while in junior high school, especially. But then certainly through that experience of being plane crash and then also this life that I'm living now, it has evolved in terms of just I just keep showing up, dude. I mean, that's really it. It's I remember specifically my dad saying to me, after the plane crash, hey dude, this is a good excuse. There's no better excuse than this to decide that you just oh, this terrible thing happened to me and throw your hands up. But he also said, man, I sure hope you choose the other way. Cause there's another way you can just let this be what it is. And I've lived my life by that. There's been some really tough moments here in Nashville, moments where I wasn't sure how the rent was going to get paid and how the bills are going to get done and how, if we were going to have to move home or not, if we were going to make it and still have those doubts and moments. But, just like my dad said, there's another way. And that's just to keep showing up and trying to be the best version of me every single day in the writer's room or, back there in the classroom. And so, in college. So it has evolved, but also it's still the same. And a lot of those things that I learned from that experience translate into my everyday now, and so, my kids know about that. It's a lesson for them, to understand hey man, just cause something really awful happens to you, it doesn't have to be used for bad, it can be used for good. You can make the most out of a really terrible situation. And I was able to do that. And I'm proud of that story and I'm proud of what it made me. And I think, when it happened to me, it really did shape me. And I feel like really I became an adult, when that happened. I ceased being a boy at that point, and became a man when I experienced that. And that's really served me in terms of just, trying to do the right thing, trying to help people whenever you can, even if it's hard.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. So my little tagline here on this podcast, it's a music podcast about more than music.
Yeah.
So that similar to your, fireworks or, hurt talk. And there's a double meaning to that. So a music podcast about more than music. There's the business side of the music, and then there's the personal side. So I've talked to people again that we all have our struggles, right? Whether it's grief or addiction or health or whatever. And everybody's got their own version of what the dark forest, right? So, people have said fairy tales don't start nor do they end in the dark forest. But like your dark forest is a dark forest, man, like surviving that plane crash. So credit to you. I fly all the time for my day job. And yeah, that's crazy. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So a couple more questions. So back to what I just said about a music podcast, about more of the music. So the business side, you know, you've talked about the radio and the songwriting and putting your kids through college on the publishing and the fact that the streaming doesn't pay much. I'm actually currently doing a survey of fans, of artists, and of like industry professionals about the impact of streaming and AI in music, right? And I think you've already commented to other people about artificial intelligence, but I do want to make the point back to what you said earlier, which is like you want to bring your authentic self to like Crittenden County, the album, right? Because that's like that's who you are. You know, you talk about the spiritual experience of writing songs, and I know that you've said in other interviews that the AI aspect of things, like you're not writing songs based on AI. It's more about sort of modifying the sound or things like that. I guess as an artist and as a songwriter, like at heart, can you just describe to like fans how you think you're going to sort of navigate the authenticity piece versus the refinement using tools like Suno or whatever, right?
Yeah. I've thought a lot about this, man, in recent days, and really, man, I just gotta I think, at least to me, you know, it's just cooler when when I know a person did it. It's just like it's easy. I could tell, I could get off of here, give Chat GPT a title. Hey, here's a song title. Write me a song, and there it would be, right? But if I know that is how it happened, then it's not as cool.
That's cool.
It's just not. What's impressive to me is that a person, a human being with a heartbeat, sat down and created that art, right? Just as if, you know, a painting that a robot makes by flinging paint on a canvas.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's not as cool. It's just not as cool. And so I have included on my liner notes that I'll release on social media when we drop these songs this week. There's a little note at the bottom of them that says, "This music was created without the assistance of artificial intelligence." I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great tool. I think it can solve a lot of the world's problems. I think it will. And I also think it's totally neat that it can write songs, and it's totally neat that you can plug a work tape into Suno and hit cover song, and it'll make something that sounds like a fully produced track in, you know, 60 seconds or less.
Yeah.
It's neat, man. That's real cool. And that's useful to me, that part of it. But man, people should know and will know that, like, when they listen to my record, there's a dude playing the bass. His name is Chris Autry, and he spent his entire life becoming a badass at the bass. And there's a guy playing those drums. His name is Evan Hutchins. And he spent 10,000 hours locking into a groove and learning how to do that and communicate and knowing how to take what I communicate to him and put it on a microphone and make it work, right? He spent that time. Man, that's cool. That's cool. And so I've always thought that what will happen is there will be some artificial music out there that was created using artificial intelligence, written probably by artificial intelligence. It's already out there. It already exists. And I'm not saying it's not cool, but it's not as cool. What's the cool part is that human beings made this, and even in its imperfections is what makes it the most cool, that it's human, right? And so I think what people are going to find is that they're going to prefer human created music, human written music. And it'll end up being kind of like a made in the USA sticker, man. It's like a point of personal pride for artists and hopefully consumers. There'll be some that don't care, and that's okay. But the ones that I'm trying to reach, the ones that I want to listen to my stuff, hopefully it matters to them that Barrett did this. Barrett sat in a studio with an engineer and created this music with people with heartbeats and arms and instruments. And we stood there and we ate lunch together, and then we went back in and cut some more songs. I think that's going to matter to people. And I think it'll be like a made in the USA sticker where it's like, yeah, there's this kind of music, and then there's made by humans music. And that right there is the coolest. And it's not necessarily, I mean, it may sound just the same. It may sound better. It may sound even a little worse. But the cool part about it is that it was made by humans. That's what makes it cool. The fact that it's not perfect is the cool part. And the fact that it wasn't made by computers is the cool part. So I certainly use Suno as a tool for me to hear songs in different grooves. And it certainly can save a songwriter a lot of money in terms of, demo costs and those type of things. I still like to cut demos with live bands and real humans because there is a feeling there and a coolness factor about that I think transcends out of the speakers and into a listener's ears. And I could be wrong about that, dude, but I don't think that I am.
Sure, yeah.
If it's made by human beings that are real people, you know, that, like I said, that AI stuff, it's cool, but it's not as cool. Not in my book.
Well, there's two things I want to ask about. Let's follow up and then we'll wrap up.
Sure.
I think you said somewhere else, which I loved. It's like, okay, if you're going to ask AI a question, it's like, you know, what ditch have you dug? Like, I love that.
Right.
Right.
It's hard for AI to sing a song about being dead broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, have you ever made money? I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Have you ever eaten a sandwich? Do you know what that tastes like? I mean, they don't know.
But then on the flip side, I think you've made another good point, which is as a songwriter, as a country songwriter, you know, your aperture could be like this, right? So Music Row, Nashville, maybe Austin, whatever. But if you were to take those lyrics, run it through Suno or whatever and say, okay, you know, give me this in reggae or give me this in something else. It's like, oh, like there might be something that actually opens up your aperture for more opportunities to get that song.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, huge. Like that's the coolest part about it for me. Like I write most of my songs in this, like you said, in a sort of with my blinders on in terms of this is a country song. The song I wrote today, even, you know, was a country song, but you know, I can also kind of wonder like, man, what if we put a Silk Sonic groove on there? Like what if we did a horn section, you know? Well, what if we actually went halftime right in the certain section, that kind of thing? Like, could this be a pop song? Like, oh, maybe it's a pop song. And that does create a vast amount more opportunity because there's more pop artists than there are country artists. Right. And that market is vast, dude. That market is global. Like the country music market is the United States, basically the United States. There's some country markets out there, Australia, whatever, you know, Europe is coming on. But really in terms of like a global song that can make ruples, dude, that can make yens, that can be played on radio stations all over the world, dude, in Mumbai, wherever, dude. Like, I mean, like that opens the door, and that's, you know, a life-changing situation. I mean, they're all life-changing, especially if they go to radio, but in terms of like, holy crap, like it's a huge global song. All of a sudden it's a John Legend pitch and not just a Chris Stapleton pitch or not just a Morgan Wallen pitch. Oh, now it's a BTS pitch. Now it's a thing, you know, I mean, these huge groups that have vast followings, you know, these songs can still work if they're written correctly and written well. A good hook is a good hook. Now, if it's a hook about trucks and that kind of stuff, probably a country song, right? But like, if it's something that's a little bit more broad, you know, it doesn't have to sound like a country song, man. Like it can sound like it needs to sound for the pitch. And that's the most useful thing I've found about Suno is that it just opens up the opportunity to pitch outside of Nashville and to get songs outside of Nashville. And if you got a great publisher like I do at Seagull, you can find those songs, you know, those songs can find their way into the right email boxes or, you know, can get pitched to Warner Nashville and then get pitched to Warner New York or whatever for whoever they have on their roster there. So I use it. I never, ever use it to write the lyric or the melody. And that's just like, that's my line in the sand. I'm like, never, right? I always write the song on my guitar first, make a work tape, and then put it in Suno and tell Suno, follow my melody, follow the thing I wrote that came out of here and out of here. And so it's never helping me do that, but it does create a scenario in which all of a sudden it can sound like an R&B song and be pitched to an R&B artist rather than just a country artist.
Yeah. All right. You got to write, you have to be the one to write the first K-pop version of a trucking whiskey song.
Let's go. Well, maybe it'll work. I'm sure they have trucks over there, however small they are, whatever. A lot of two-wheel drive trucks over there. And South Korea, brother.
All right, cool. Well, all right. What last question? So I asked this of everybody, and I'm really excited to hear your answer. So again, this thing I'm doing here, it's just I'm doing it for a lot of reasons, but I think curiosity is very underrated in life, right? Like with your family or with your loved ones, your romantic partner, whatever, in work, whatever. So I guess at this stage in your career, as in your mid 40s, having experienced everything that you've experienced, what are you most curious about?
Man, I'm really curious about how the music industry is going to evolve. I mean, it's in a state of evolution now. A lot of it has to do with AI, but a lot of it has to do with social media. I'm really curious to see how it evolves in terms of social media marketing, how to market products, what works, what doesn't work, and then also to see how the really smart ones out here find a way to continue to do what they love, but also be able to pay their bills in a respectable way. And I think it's going to come with some doing it wrong, but it's also going to come with some doing it different. And I think at this point, we've reached a place where really everybody's doing a lot of the same stuff in terms of how they market their music and how they reach the consumer. And I'm really curious to see how that plays out in terms of the future. And if it does revert back to maybe a little bit like of a smaller is better kind of situation, like how is it okay? Like I really only need like 2,000 people to like be crazy fans of my music, and I can work with that. And is that enough for me? That is enough for me. Like it's okay. Like, and really kind of locking into maybe more one-on-one interactions with your fans and feeding your specific, fan base and group, and how that works and how it works with live performance and getting out on the road and playing these songs out and those type of things. It's an interesting time to be in the music business. It's a scary time, but it's very interesting at the same time. And I think, if you're a guy like me who's really kind of pot committed to this life, which I am, I mean, at this point, it's like, what am I going to do to like go back to work? Like, I'm going to put on my suit and go sit at my desk. I'm kind of in this thing now. And so I'm curious to find out and see how people reframe their relationship with music and reframe their relationship with their fans. And I feel like I'm in a unique position to do so because I'm not a big star, man. And honestly, I'm not trying to be one either. It's like, I'm just a guy that's trying to do some cool shit. And like, hopefully like that translates to enough people where it like makes it worth it and makes it worth my time in terms of the reward it gives me monetarily, but also just like, even if it doesn't, man, I mean, like this is about who I am and not about what I do. It's like, I told somebody that yesterday. They said their son was into music and thinking about giving it a go in Nashville. And I was like, giving it a go. It's like, well, I mean, you can give it a go, but like, this really is about who you are and not about what you do. It's like, I'm always going to write songs regardless of my day job, regardless of how I pay my bills. I'm always going to be writing songs. I know I will. It's just who I am. I can't say no to it. So I'm curious to see how the world evolves, how the music business evolves, and to learn some things from some of my compadres, because there's a lot of smart people doing this, and we'll figure out how to make it worth our while and support ourselves while continuing to do the thing that we love to do, which is make music.
All right. Great perspective, Barry. I appreciate you. So good luck
Thanks,
with Crittenden County. It's coming out early summer 2026.
Yeah. Give me a follow.
I guess pick Suey. I'll just say it right now.
Appreciate that, buddy. You got a great podcast here, man. Thank you for having me on. It was cool. And yeah, folks, just give me a follow on the internet. You want to come along for the ride, man. See what